It's Tuesday, the 11th of April, 2023. Welcome to the Fast Five by Fear and Greed, where we give you the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Michael.
Sean, 5 big stories in 5 minutes. Story number 1, the incredible performance of many of the giant tech stocks on Wall Street has pushed equity markets higher, but it's also created an over-reliance among investors on just 2 stocks.
It's becoming an issue in the US for investors and regulators, with Apple and Microsoft now dominating. Apple remains the largest company on the S&P 500, accounting for about 7% of the index. It's worth about $2.6 trillion US dollars. Its share price is up more than 30% this year. Microsoft isn't that far behind. It's got a weighting of 6.2%, market cap of $2.1 trillion US dollars. Massive. If we're only worried about 2 tech stocks making up 13%, maybe you could invest around that. The problem is that 5 of the remaining 8 top 10 companies are also tech stocks. Amazon, Nvidia, Alphabet, which owns Google, Tesla, and Meta Platforms, which owns Facebook. Of those, Nvidia's share price is up more than 90% this year. Tesla's up 80%, Meta's up 70%. When you have 7 of the top 10 stocks from one sector, you've got a challenge when it comes to diversifying risk. And that's the challenge facing investors in the US market at the moment. Just as an aside, the 3 non-tech stocks in the top 10 are Warren Buffett's investment company, Berkshire Hathaway, ExxonMobil, the oil giant, and United Healthcare Group, a healthcare insurance company.
So why has this happened then, Sean? How do we get to this point?
Well, longer term, easy money post the global financial crisis and the lack of inflation has been used by the tech companies to grow. They've done a great job. More recently, they were sold off really hard last year. They've bounced back this year. Also, the banking system, what happened there in the US has hit markets, but tech stocks have remained pretty much immune to the chaos there. The excitement around artificial intelligence is helping, particularly Microsoft, which has a stake in OpenAI, the creator of ChatGPT. And finally, the size of them, they're monsters. They've almost become a safe haven in themselves. The ASX 200 here in Australia is criticised for being too financials heavy. Well, the S&P 500 has a much bigger problem.
And of course, we're not an investing podcast, so make sure you get professional advice before you make any investment decisions. On to story number 2, Sean. The Reserve Bank is worried about fixed rate borrowers and estimates that one more increase in the cash rate would mean 15% of borrowers will have negative cash flow.
It's worrying. So, in households, mortgage arrears are increasing, although they're still at low levels. There's been a pickup in borrowers who are drawing down on the repayment buffers. Around 40% of borrowers have less than 3 months of prepayment buffers, which is largely unchanged from prior Reserve Bank analysis. But fixed rate borrowers are more of a concern because they have larger balances and higher loan to valuation ratios. Renters are also in a vulnerable position, as on average, they tend to have lower income and are facing large increases in rent. Now, the Reserve Bank estimates that 15% of household borrowers would have negative cash flow with one more rate increase. That's if it got to 3.75%. It means these households need to make significant cuts to their non-essential spending or deplete their savings buffers. That would affect the economy. Job losses, major problem if that's the case, would be a big negative for household cash flow. The good news is that a very small share, just 2% of loans, have a loan to valuation ratio of greater than 90%, Michael.
Sean, story number 3, new vehicle sales fell 4% in March compared to a year ago, but cashed up tradies are still buying utes.
Sure are. 3 ute brands are the most popular vehicles among buyers: Toyota Hilux, Ford Ranger, and the Isuzu D-Max. The Mitsubishi Outlander came in 4th, then the Tesla Model Y, which dropped down a couple of spots. The slightly disappointing month suggests interest rates are starting to bite. Federal Chamber of Automotive Industry's Chief Executive Tony Weber attributed part of the broader slowdown to the continued supply constraints from global car makers, even though things are getting better. While new vehicle sales were down in March, for the first 3 months of the year, they were up 2.5%. EV sales during the month, they might have been down month on month, but they were 20% higher than a year earlier.
Story number 4, a trove of classified documents from the United States, mostly about the war in Ukraine and missile tests in North Korea, has been leaked.
Yes, one of the most significant leaks of highly classified documents in recent history. It seems that sometime in January, a small group got access to these documents. They posted about them. And then in March, one of those users reposted several dozen of them to another group with a larger audience. On Wednesday last week, with the US government apparently still unaware, A Russian propaganda account on Telegram posted a doctored version of one of the documents alongside a few unedited ones. The FBI and the Justice Department clicked that they had a leak going on. They're now trying to find the source of that leak. The Australian government yesterday expressed concern over what has happened.
Last one, story number 5, Sean. The Super Mario Brothers movie topped the box office, taking in $146 million in its US debut, the biggest opening weekend for a film so far this year.
Way above what the animated feature was expected to bring in, Michael. Super Mario was released on Wednesday to take advantage of the northern spring break and Easter holidays. It was the best weekend for a film this year, beating out Ant-Man, and the best ever for an animated feature, according to Bloomberg. It's a victory for Nintendo, the Japanese entertainment giant that created the Mario video game franchise. Now, a previous effort back in 1993 to put Mario and Luigi on the big screen failed. In fact, that particular movie often appears on lists of the worst films ever made. Nintendo stuck with it. It's opened a theme park earlier this year. Now this movie's working. Good on them.
Yeah, good on them indeed. There we go. The top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
It's Tuesday, the 11th of April, 2023. Remember to hit follow on the podcast. And if 5 minutes isn't enough, you can find our longer daily show called Fear and Greed wherever you listen to podcasts. And don't forget, of course, that the Amazon Echo smart speaker range comes with Alexa built in. Simply say, Alexa, play the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed podcast to catch the latest episode, and you can grab yours now at amazon.com.au. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed. Have a great day.